Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
Hey, Mike, it's great to see you again. It's been forever.
It has been, and we are wearing the same stuff we were wearing last week. No,
not laundry day yet.
Listeners, you hopefully you know, but this is part 2 of the topic of anniversaries. We like to think of it as the 1 week anniversary of the topic of anniversaries. So
we're celebrating with devil dogs.
Yeah, I know what a devil dog is. I don't get the joke though.
I have some in the house. I did
I
did a Brooklyn Brothers food review on devil dogs this week. It hasn't launched on YouTube yet. It's edited. It's up there. I don't know when my brother's going to hit the launch button. By the time you hear this in 2 weeks from today, I'm sure it'll be live. I did a lovely review of devil dogs,
nice.
Chocolate devil's food cake with the cream filling. Does it hold up? Is it as good as it was when we were kids? Only time will tell.
Yeah. So anyway, our topic is anniversaries. And so I will say, listeners, we kind of decided we would split the episode into, so last week is all personal anniversaries. Like things that we, just our personal experiences with anniversaries. This episode is going to be more about
less personal,
maybe the concept and of anniversaries themselves. So if that's one that you're more interested in listening in, you can go back and listen to that first. We may make some references right now to jokes because for us it's been 3 minutes since we stopped recording the last episode. So the references might be there. Sure. So go check that episode out if you haven't already. So
yeah, I had a great anniversary experience just last week.
Nice.
The date I think was kind of random, but this year is the 60th anniversary of my company existing as a company.
Nice.
And I know that sounds weird, but there's an institute that's an overarching organization that is older, but they started the company in 1963 as a way to fund the charitable and philanthropic organization. Like we're backwards from most companies that start a charity as a tax write-off. We were a charity and an institute, a scientific institute that started a company to fund the charitable things that are done.
Nice.
Yeah, and so it was our 60th anniversary, and we had a big reception at work, which was really cool because, there's been a pandemic for the last couple of years, and I work in the office 2 days a week, and a lot of groups don't work at all, or their days don't coincide with mine. So I saw people I haven't seen in person in like 3 years. So it was we did a big outdoor thing. They grilled steaks and chicken and hot dogs and burgers and blah blah blah. And I got to hang out with people and see people and hug a bunch of people. Then have my wife test positive for COVID the next day, but I didn't. So.
Well, maybe they gave you COVID. Maybe you're a carrier. I don't know. Trying to look on the bright side.
Always look on the bright side. Yeah, but it was cool to celebrate an anniversary like with hundreds of other people celebrating the same day at the same time for fun and for feeling good about ourselves. Because those of you who don't know, I'm in a life sciences company, do diagnostic tests, and so our products are what they run in the hospital lab when you're sick to figure out how to save your life. So it's an anniversary of 60 years of helping doctors save lives.
Yeah. I will say, so for anybody that's unfamiliar, I used to work at Matthew's company for about a year
what a coinkydink.
Year and a quarter. That's how we met. I worked directly for him for the first 7 or 8 months of that.
I prefer to think under me.
Under you, yeah. I labored under you. But it was, I would say, the most rewarding company to work for that I've in my experience, because I've worked for lots of companies that I would say are null set morally at best. Like some of them probably negative, but there's been some where it's like, whatever. They're I don't know, like what good or bad Verizon's doing in the world, but nothing that's like shameful, like nothing that I've been terribly ashamed of. And like when I worked for Home Depot, they weren't like Trumpers yet. The owners weren't Trump, like, so
there was no such thing yet.
Yeah, it was just kind of, and they paid people. They weren't in the Walmart style of don't pay anybody anything. So it was a different time. So But yeah, so that's where I met Matthew, and I would say that yeah, working in that field was really rewarding. Um, it felt good. It was funny because I got the job randomly just from a agency. Like
Wasn't random.
no, no, no.
A highly skilled and insightful, intuitive person interviewed you and identified you as somebody
Yes,
who was capable of doing the job and morally sound and had a sense of humor that could come through and was highly intelligent and with love of literature
yeah.
and
Oh,
available to do the work for cheap.
but my point when I say that when I say randomly, I mean like I wasn't. I'm not a. I have never had an industry that I'm like making a career path in.
Right.
Um,
It was I had a job open and you
yes,
could do the job.
yes. But I randomly, in that way, randomly got into the position, and then found out that your company does a test. It makes a medical test that is very specifically applicable to something that happened to Sarah during when Logan was born, and I was like learning all about that, and it was like like I felt it was the most excited for a product that I've ever been in my
Yeah. It
career.
was interesting. My brother recently, within the last 2 years, had a problem with embolism, pulmonary embolisms, and when he goes, "Yeah, they told me the test. I got this number 532," and I said, "Oh man, you're gonna have to be on blood thinners." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, that number is a result of my company's D dimer exclusionary test, and it's over 500. That means you're." And I'm making those numbers up right now because I don't remember the exact thing, but it's something like that, 400 or 500. I said, "But being over that threshold, even by that little bit, means you need to be on blood thinners for a little while longer, like another test."
Yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, anniversaries. One in so you're at least you're somewhat a Disney guy. Um, your family enjoys Disney.
I'm no Ron DeSantis, but yeah, I
You,
honeymooned
I
there. I
didn't.
didn't get married there.
I love the fact that he's. Oh my god! Other than who he is personally, I actually love the circumstance around so much of his stuff. Like I got married at Disney, and now I'm fighting a war against Disney. I am have human smile, and then I watched a video today.
Insert smile
It
here.
was if you're symptoms of erectile dysfunction, and it was him going doing the smile, and then the in like interviews, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Watching somebody implode, who is a bad person, is kind of nice.
But anyway, Disney.
Disney, Disney, I think is so. I like Disney. Some of the business practices are I don't like, and one of the things I would say I'm not. I don't have a moral stance against it, but it's it's like super capitalistic, and I don't give a fuck about it one way or the
I mean,
other.
they are
Is
the most capitalistic company in the universe.
yeah, is they every single year is a big anniversary year. Last year it was 50 years of Disney World. This year it's 100 years of Disney the company. Next year it'll be 25 years of Animal
37
Kingdom.
years of frozen anti-Semite, CEO.
Yeah, and so like I think that's interesting when anniversaries become this big like selling point for
Yeah, you have to come and get the pin for this anniversary. You'll be collector's item. You'll never have it again.
yeah.
That's funny. I say that, and we have hanging like in our hallway when you come in the house a print we got of Mickey's PhilharMagic because it opened that year,
Yeah.
and like we have the not anniversary but the introductory print and pin from that from vacationing there the year the ride opened for the attraction.
Yeah. I like that one.
It's one of my favorites. For years, it was our when we got to Magic Kingdom, we made a beeline for it, like it was the first thing we went to.
Yeah. When I went as a kid, my dad established, and we only went one time. So the four of us, my sister and my parents and I, have only been one time together. I've been with my sister two times since, but not with my parents. But my dad has only been the one time ever. When we went, he was like, "Okay, we're gonna get there when the park opens, and we're gonna go straight to the back, and then we're gonna work our way to the front." And he said, because everybody else is going to get in the gate and start at the front and slowly work their way to the back, and we're going to do the opposite. And he goes, "Yeah, we're going to start hitting lines when we get to the halfway point, and it'll probably never clear out, but we're going to get all that stuff before anybody else gets there." And it's a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, you're supposed to plan out your map strategy of what are my most important things. We hit that first. That's what people do now is you go to the ones you want to get before the line goes, rather than just go to the back and then be like, "Oh, by the time I get to Space Mountain, there's going to be a huge line." Like, go straight to Space Mountain, do that first.
Yeah.
And like Epcot, never stop at Planet Earth, the big dome thing. You do that on the way out. Like, that's the last thing to do.
We went last year with Sarah's family, and one of the days her sister was up late. Like, I think we got to the park at close to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the kids have been up since 8 or 9 in the morning, but like they were all, half the adults were sleeping, and Sarah took the kids over to Disney Springs for a couple hours to burn some energy, and I think I forget what I was doing. I was probably like doing not homework, but maybe I went for a run or something. I forget. And we're doing all these different things, and we finally get to Epcot, and it's like 2 p.m. and I'm like, the kids are gonna be like, if we don't go get
you got one ride out of them before they hit the melting point.
Yeah, and like if we don't go get them on a fucking ride before, like, and everyone's like wanting food.
Epcot. There's no rides they like in Epcot.
Yeah, well, everybody wants food. Everybody wants food, and I'm like, let's just get them on a ride so that they can say they went on a ride before we go get lunch. So we put them on. We put Sarah's sister and boyfriend take the kids with my father-in-law onto Spaceship Earth, which is the giant circle, because there's no line. Like the line is like you just walk through.
And the only time there's a line is when the park first opens and people who've never been there before think you have to go there first.
Yes. So they go on the ride. Sarah goes to get them pins. I go to get waters or something.
Coca-Cola place where it's free soda.
Yeah, but she goes to get the kids the pins, like my first visit, because my nephews hadn't been before. And we meet them in the gift shop, and they come into the gift shop, and her sister goes, "That was the worst fucking ride I've ever been on. I will never do that again. Don't ever suggest that again." And I was laughing so hard, because when you become, like, when you're good enough, when you know enough about Disney, there are certain ones where, like, I genuinely enjoy that ride.
Yeah.
But, like, I also know that nobody fucking else does. And same thing with Carousel of Progress is kind of...
relaxed. Oh, we're going to put that into the oven. Come on, yeah. I love that. Those are relaxation points when I'm getting overheated.
Yeah,
my legs are starting to hurt. Those are the kinds of rides you go to at that point for a refresh.
Yeah,
sit in the air conditioning for 10 minutes and go in a circle.
There's a little bit of amusement on the Carousel of Progress too, which is like, I always say to Sarah, I'm like, it's the same family for up until the last one, because the guy clearly died before they did the last update, the main character voice. Mm-hmm. So everybody else gets a speaking part in the last one, because it's sometime around 2000-ish. Although they've probably done little updates to that one, but all the other ones are the same one. So you're seeing like he talks about Orville and Redenbacher and the planes. I know it's not Redenbacher. Wilbur. I'm aware.
I'm fine with it.
So he mentions them, and they may have some. They claim to have some flying machines. So you're 1903-ish, and then the next thing they're talking about, like the Roaring '20s,
and all the North Carolinians cheer,
yeah,
and all the Ohioans like, screw you,
yeah, and then the next time frame is like Roaring '20s, and then I think it's like the mid to late '50s. I'm guessing, based on like we got a refrigerator,
guys in Korea,
yeah. But so you're doing these decade hops, right? But it's the same family, and you get the little boy, and you get the girl who is like, and also because the animatronics don't look great, right? So he's like, that Lucy, Lucy, you better be back by 9 p.m. from your little dance there. And I'm like, Lucy is 65 years old now. Lucy should be able to do whatever the fuck she wants.
It's not the same family. It's this kid from each one is the grandfather and is the
They
father,
have
and
the
he's
same
he's close to them.
names. They have
Yeah, Junior. He's
the
Junior.
girls have the same names, and
Yeah,
there's an
yeah.
Uncle Alan
It's
or whatever.
because in actuality, of course, it's parallel universes that are just set at different dates.
Yeah, okay. I like my commentary when we're on the ride, and I'm leaning over to Sarah, and I'm like,
Get home at 9 because it's time for your
and
pills.
the little boy makes fun of his older sister being ugly. I'm like, hey, she's 75 fucking years old. Leave her alone. If she was 16 in 1903 and we're in the 1950s, she's got to be pushing 70, right?
And you think it's animatronics.
They
It's actually Tupperware every night. They get up in the morning, get out of the Tupperware, and they look fresh.
don't look that fresh.
Well, you went in the afternoon.
That's true.
you got to catch them early morning.
Got to catch them all. So anyway, Disney. Disney, I think, does a lot of anniversary stuff.
Yeah, we did our honeymoon at Disney, and we planned out every day. So I made up long sleeve tees because it's October and some sweatshirts for the evenings, um, with different pictures of us as couples. From different. We've been dating for years. On each shirt with honeymoon day one, October 12th, 1992, MGM Studios.
Yeah.
And then the next one, MGM 2, you know, Epcot, and we included what else is there? SeaWorld and Universal, because those are 1 day parks back then in the early '90s. It didn't take you a week to do Disney. It took you 1 day per park, and then and there weren't that many parks, and there was no Animal Kingdom for sure. And
Yeah.
then on our third anniversary, we went back to Disney World and we brought those shirts. So we went this the week of our anniversary. So we wore the corresponding shirt. So on the first trip, we got like moved to the head of the line once or twice, free ice cream because we had the honeymoon stuff. And on the second trip, they're like, "Your anniversary, come to the head of the line." So like we got to pull it off twice.
Nice. We got engaged at Disney on March 18th, 2013, and so
Oh, that wasn't the time we were there. Yeah,
that'd be
there was
cool.
one time that we were. I think the I can't remember if Leah was born yet. I don't know if she was. I know we had the boys with us, and I don't remember how old they were. Like we went when Joseph was like not even walking yet because Madhavi's aunt was in America, was visiting America and wanted to go to Disney World, so the whole family went. When Jacob was like 2 and Joseph was 18 months or something, like he was barely walking. But I think we went again a couple years later, maybe right before Leah was born, or she was a baby. I don't remember. But we were there and we were at our favorite restaurant. What's your favorite restaurant? Your favorite Disney restaurant, the one that like even if it's expensive, you can do it at least once because you're there
In a park or
in the parks.
okay. Honestly, right now it is the egg roll stand at Magic Kingdom because they have
So
cheeseburger egg rolls, and I every time
you're
we go
classy.
now, I walk
You're,
over.
you're classy. Our favorite place was always in Epcot, Cafe Marrakesh in
Oh
Morocco,
yeah, yeah.
because it's so hard to find good Moroccan food anywhere. I mean, I know there's a couple places in New York, but it's not the most common restaurant to find, and it's so good there. And so we're there with the boys were real little, and um, we're at a table, and like there's a table, like a two-person table, 4 inches away from our table, like it was probably attached to our table for a big party, and they just pulled it a little bit aside and sat someone else there, right before we came in. And this couple was this young couple, and they got engaged over dinner. Like they just got engaged that day, and they
That
were
was
celebrated
us.
that day. I'm not saying I was looking at the dates; it wasn't you.
No.
And they were super excited. They were like, and they're watching us, and they're talking about the kids, like that'll be us one day with the kids. And my boys were super well behaved in restaurants because when they weren't, we would take them out of the restaurant, let them run around and burn the energy off. So nobody ever saw them in a bad mood because we didn't let that happen in the restaurant. We just removed them from the situation. But this day they were just being great. They were trying foods. They was and this couple was like oohing and eyeing because they saw themselves in us. In 5 years
Yeah.
that will be us, kind of thing. And so we started a conversation. And at one point, I went to go to the restroom, and I grabbed the manager of the restaurant, and I said, "The couple next to us, it's their anniversary. They just got engaged today. Is there anything?" And he said, "We got it. We have it." We sat down. I sat down, and 5 minutes later, they come out and they sang a song to them in Moroccan or Arabic, I don't know. And then and I brought out a dessert for them, a special dessert with sparklers on it, and they were like crying. They're like, "You guys are so sweet for doing this for us. You're so sweet." Like thinking we paid for it, I guess, even though all we do is tell them. But but they had the greatest time. They like the kids. They love the kids, and we realize we're part of their life story. Like when they do their podcast about their engagement, we're in that story forever. We met this great family the night we got engaged. They got us a dessert, and their kids were so sweet.
I think about that sometimes when you think about the pictures you take at Disney or any other big place. Like we have
How
a
many serial
picture.
killers are in the background of your picture?
Yeah, well, we have a picture. We have a picture of Logan at he's little. He's probably like 2 or 3 at the parade. He's on sitting on the curb on Main Street, and there's a guy behind him. That the picture comes up every day on my digital picture frame at work, and the guy looks like a combination of Coach Beard and Eminem, and every single day, and I think if that guy's in my picture, and I look at that guy more, I look at that guy more often than I look at my own dad, right? I'm in somebody's picture that they're seeing, like, and knowing me, who knows what
I
that
always
fucking
wonder what
picture.
wrong stories are. Like one time I was visiting my brother in San Francisco, and we hadn't seen each other in a couple of years, and we got drunk, and we're walking around, and we're New Yorkers, and as New Yorkers, we're wearing black leather jackets because it cuts the wind. That's what you wear.
Yeah,
In San Francisco, mostly gay guys wear black leather,
nice.
and we're drunk, and we're kind of like on each other. We're ethnic, we're Jews, so we're a very touchy feely family. So we're hugging on each other and arm in arm. We're both comedians, so we're improvising songs, so we're singing together, and tourists are taking pictures of us. And we're like, they think we're a couple. They don't think we're brothers, you know?
I don't know that that
So
makes it okay to take pictures of, like, to
I,
randomly be like, "Oh, look
I,
at the gays. We came to see
I had
gays."
no,
Like,
that's what it was like people from Iowa, you know, it's like
I've
Native
never
American
seen
people.
gays before.
So that's exactly what it was. And we're cracking up and we're like posing for them. We're like, we gave consent. We're like, yeah. Because we're like, these people are going to make up these huge stories about us. And it's not going to be two brothers who haven't seen each other in 2 years. Like, that's not going to be the story they make up.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Especially like if you ever, if you get famous from this or from your channel with your brothers, and they're like, "Hey, it's those
I
gay
know
guys
those
that we've
guys.
got in that
Yeah.
picture."
But that's not, it's not the anniversary of that, though.
No. Um.
So on the anniversary of 9/11, we mentioned 9/11 last week, I think, if I remember back.
Yeah.
And I had an interesting 9/11 anniversary story. It was the anniversary of 9/11, the second or third, probably. And I was outside the theater where my comedy group performed before rehearsal, and a bunch of us, the group, were talking, and we were doing what you do on the anniversary of 9/11, which was, where were you on 9/11?
Yeah.
And one of the guys in the group, Eddie, goes, "Yeah, I was a waiter at the Capital City Chop House down by the airport. And remember, we were just, we had a handful of customers, like corporate people who had things planned. So they showed up for their thing. And then, we're all, it was before smartphones. So none of us, like, until we got there and saw what was going on TV, we didn't really know what was happening. So he goes, I was standing there with, customers from corporate lunch watching on TV the towers fall, or the rerun of it, at lunchtime. And I went, Eddie, I was one of those customers. I was on a team dinner, a team lunch at Capital City Chop House on 9/11, and I stood around with the wait staff watching it on TV. Holy shit, we met on the worst day of history before we really met. And it was weird because then Madhavi called me. It's like she was at Glaxo. She said, "What do I do? They're dismissing us." And I'm like, "I just got here. I don't know. Get the kids from daycare and come here." She's like, "What? The world is falling apart, and you went out for lunch?" I'm like, "We didn't know." So she picked up the kids and drove over, and they brought the kids that had lunch already at school, but the wait staff brought them ice cream. The team that was taking me out bought Madhavi lunch. We're just like eating lunch, not knowing what we're
Yeah.
supposed to do. Just in shock.
Yeah. I was in school. I was in high school.
Yeah, I was dad too. Yeah, but it was funny that on the anniversary, meet the person who I spent that moment with.
Yeah.
How random was that?
So my
It's a
friend.
small world,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want to have to paint it, as Stephen Wright said. He's a comedian from your part of the woods. I'm just saying.
I know who Stephen Wright is.
It's from your area. I
He's
met him once. I met him met him in the street in New York City, crossing the street. I saw him, and I said,
Yes.
"Hey, you're you." And he went, "Yeah, I am." And we
He
smiled
has
at
a
each other and
very
kept walking.
dry way of talking.
Yeah, he was Mitch Hedberg before Mitch Hedberg,
Yeah. So,
and that's not the way he talks. Even it's hysterical. Like the first time he was on stage, he was very nervous, and it came out that way, and people loved it. And his friends were like, "You have to stay that way." Like it became his character because he did it once.
yeah, I mean Gilbert Gottfried. Speaking of 9/11, Gilbert Gottfried was the squint is because he didn't want to look at the people in the audience
Yeah,
because he had stage
yeah. When he
fright.
was
So
on SNL, he did a lot of other voices.
he, and yeah, like even more than the voice, he would do the squint that he does because that way
Yeah.
he wouldn't really see the audience.
It's like when he was on SNL as a young person, like, he was on the cast for
Oh yeah,
like one of the really bad casts. He wasn't the old Jew Gilbert Godfrey. Have you ever heard the um, Howard Stern audio clip of him? There's a clip of him. He left like a voicemail for Gary on the Howard Stern show, and he's like, "Hey Gary, it's me, Gilbert. I just want to talk about coming on the show." And he's like the most normal voice, like you'd never in a million years know it was his voice.
yeah.
Didn't sound like Iago at all.
No, or the Affleck duck. I I I think it's kind of ridiculous that they fired him and then they got someone to sound just like him to do it. Like I feel like after Back to the Future 2 when that guy was like you can't use my likeness without my consent, like that's basically what Affleck did.
Yeah, he was predicting the AI revolution. That's the big thing the actors are on about. How long before you can just say, "I want a Harrison Ford at age 40 who sounds like Madonna," and boom, you can do that.
Yeah.
Not pay them a dime.
So, I wonder so like obviously one of the probably the only other, well, technically the 4th of July is an anniversary holiday, but like it's a holiday. I think of it more of as a holiday, and obviously nobody remembers the original. But well,
Oh,
the one
I
that
do.
comes
I
to mind,
remember July 4th. I remember being there.
yeah, the one that comes to I don't think you're that old. Um, the one that comes to mind for me that I think of as the only other national anniversary is it I'm gonna fuck it up too now that I just said the only one that
Hanukkah? What are you gonna
December
do?
7th.
It's a day that lives in infamy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so like I wonder. So
unless you're Dan Quayle, who on September 7th said that's what it was.
did he?
Oh yes. On a speech on September 7th, he said it was Pearl Harbor Day.
Jesus fucking Christ! Yeah, and in 10 years from now, 10 years and 3 days from now, 4 days from now, it'll be a different day that lives in infamy. Um, no, but I wonder when it came to like obviously we the big thing with September 11th is you talk about where you were and how you learned and I want but I have not heard that from Pearl Harbor people, but we do. There is always some mention of
Kennedy,
Pearl
you hear it
Harbor
from
every,
Kennedy.
huh?
You hear that for Kennedy.
Oh,
People
true, true,
slightly
true.
older than me. Where were you when Kennedy? Heard what Kennedy shot. That's the previous one that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Like that before 9/11, it was a where were you when Kennedy was shot.
Yeah, I have a theory. Maybe it's a stupid theory, but I have a
Probably.
theory that every generation has this one big world changer that happened. Every not generation in the proper
Yeah,
term, but like
yeah.
so right now like COVID is our thing right now.
And
My
I think there's also
for
things where that whatever the biggest thing that happens until something replaces it by default will become that.
kinda, but I like for me it was like for my generation it is not 9/11. For the new kids it's gonna
On the
be
block.
huh?
For me, it was the New Kids on the Block.
No, for the new kids it's gonna be COVID. But for the generation before me, or maybe you wouldn't even consider this for you, but like because you're in a weird spot, AIDS. AIDS was the thing, and then before that would have been JFK getting
Yeah, we
killed,
used to say
or
that all the time, man. We'd say AIDS is the thing.
you
Our
know
big
what?
our big complaint was, that that I graduated high school in '85, so AIDS was a thing right when I was in high school and
Yeah.
into college. And we would look back and say, man, our older siblings looked like shit in the '70s. Like '70s people dressed so weird and they didn't shave and their hair was crazy. They didn't bathe and they got laid all the time. We looked good with our members only and our, Miami Vice look. Like we dressed sharp and we couldn't have sex because of AIDS. It was not fair. Not fair.
Yeah.
We had to use condoms. So the first generation who had to use condoms. Yep. What was unfair in my universe was having used lambskin condoms, and it's almost like you're not wearing one compared to a regular condom. But then finding out that it doesn't do anything to prevent transmission of HIV virus, the virus can go through lambskin. So having to switch to latex,
Oh.
and it's like that sucks. Like I started sex with condom that wasn't that bad, and then had to go to latex. Now, on the plus side, lasted twice as long because I hardly felt what I was doing. But
Patrons, it's gonna be just for you guys.
the story of ventriloquist who stops on a farm when he's traveling.
Oh.
And yeah, he's a farmer and he goes, I'm going to screw with the farmer. And he goes, the farmer, yeah, I was just talking to your chicken. The farmer goes, talk to my chicken. And he throws his voice, makes the chicken say, yes, I was talking to him. He was like, what the hell? He goes, yeah, and I was talking to your horse. And the horse looks up and he goes, oh, yeah, we were talking. Holy shit. He goes, and then I was talking to your lamb. And he goes, that lamb's a fucking liar. Don't listen to a word he says.
Yeah, I've heard that one. So Logan, so our internet is bad right now. That's important to know, as you could probably tell from doing this call with me. But Logan the other day looks at me and goes, "Dad, how do you spell dog like in doghouse?" And I was like, DOG. He goes, and how do you spell cat?
Cat, like in catastrophe.
In like catastrophe. And I said, CAT. And then he goes, and how do you spell fuck in internet? And I said, there is no fucking internet. And he goes, not with AT&T there isn't. I loved it. I was so happy.
I just heard that joke on like TikTok the other day. It was just no, her. Harrison Ford. I saw a clip of Harrison Ford telling it on the Conan O'Brien show.
Yes, I've seen that clip.
Yeah, but it wasn't the internet he was talking about, but it was that's why I said catastrophe right away. I'm like, I just heard Harrison Ford say this yesterday.
Yeah. It's such a good one. There's another one that I want to tell Logan. I told several people this, and now I can't think of it. But I want to tell Logan, and Sarah was like, "No, not yet." So yeah, I mean, back to anniversaries and back to big national events. Like, obviously, we had the anniversary of COVID, like lockdown, which was March 13th, 2020 for most. That's when like the real lockdown started. So I know that like at the first year or the second.
I still love that show, The Real Lockdown of Beverly Hills. Yeah, loved it.
I'm gonna get a new co-host who doesn't make jokes mid sentence every single sentence.
So anyway,
but like the same thing. I know that like June of '81 is when like the first AIDS stories were hitting like medical journals and stuff, but like with Pearl Harbor, what I was starting to say with Pearl Harbor is like we have like that's such a clear moment. September 11th is a clear moment, so we give those anniversaries, I think, have a weight to them, and obviously because of the thing that they were as well, but also they're very clearly defined days, and so I am always curious. I know people who lived through it, but like my grandfather, when Pearl Harbor happened, would have been under 10 years old. So he probably doesn't remember that much.
My dad was 10.
Yeah. What was it,
No,
42?
No, not even 10. Yeah, it was 41. Right?
41?
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, 41. So
he was like 7. He was 4.
Yeah. In 41, my grandfather would have been 7 years old. So like, he's Logan's age. 7.5, yeah.
Yeah, which is actually the reason that my grandparents had the amazing apartment they had was because of World War II. So when my dad was like 3, so the year before that, before we were in the war, but when the war was raging, my grandparents got an apartment on the beach, like literally looking out the window of my dad's room was the ocean, or Jamaica Bay anyway, um, in Brighton Beach near Coney Island. And it was because they were afraid of German U-boat attacks. So the rent was super cheap. No one with money wanted to live there and die. So immigrants, this whole area became the Russian Jewish area because who cares if they get killed by they all if they get killed by German U-boats. And then there was never an attack there, and they were rent controlled apartments, so they lived there forever.
Yet. Nobody
Yeah,
expects the U-boats now.
they
No.
didn't have very good radar. They're still looking.
Yeah.
Sean Connery's going to pop up with his U-boat.
Did you ever read The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay?
Yes, and I was just recommending it to a coworker last week.
It's just you talking about
Back in the old days of Brighton Beach,
Russian Jews immigrating to New York right before World War II. That's what made me think of that. But it's great. It's one of my. I would say it's maybe my favorite book of all time. I need to reread it, but it's been a few years. But
he also wrote a baseball one that was really cool.
I
don't remember the author's name anymore, but after I read that,
Michael Chabon, or
Chabon,
I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
or Chabon, whatever. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I remember I read Cavalier and Clay because it was comic book related, and then I'm pretty sure it was him who wrote a baseball one also. That was like a dimensional travel and baseball thing or something. I remember being really cool.
Maybe
I think it was him.
His other big book that I can remember.
I'm sorry. You write nasty comments under the YouTube video and send us nasty email if I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. The other book that I remember from him is Wonder Boys, which I didn't read.
That was about Tenacious D, right?
That's just Wonder Boy. Now, Wonder Boys is the one with that. The movie was with Tobey Maguire and Michael Douglas and maybe Robert Downey Jr. Does that sound right? I don't know. I suppose we could make this a shorter episode and wrap up because I'm hungry and I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other anniversary things like on a bigger scale that you want to talk about?
I don't remember any. Not thinking of anything. The anniversary of thinking of one.
Do you ever? I had something and I just lost it. I don't know.
It's funny. There are some anniversary dates that stick in my head randomly. Like the anniversary of my fraternity being founded was December 10th, 1904, and like when December 10th rolls around, it's like, oh, it's Founders Day. I haven't done anything with my fraternity, except for stay in touch with a couple of friends in decades. Yet December 10th, I always think, which is a weird thing because it's also my brother's birthday, and that's not my first thought. My first thought is Founders Day, and my second thought is my brother's birthday.
Yeah, I do want to do an intoxication episode, by the way, where you can just drink the whole time right before we start and just slowly get. Yeah,
my alcohol's right there.
We could talk about the theory of. We could talk about like the concept of intoxication while we get intoxicated, and it might be a nightmare to edit, but it might also be the best episode ever.
So I have not been very drunk in a very long time. I don't get drunk. I'm an old man. I don't get drunk anymore. I drink casually. I mean, the last time I really remember really losing control and getting drunk was on a New Year's Eve some years ago. We were out back at our neighbor's fire pit, and like a bunch of the neighbors were over, and we'd been drinking beer and all night. Or I've been drinking beer, Mother was drinking wine all night, and then we did multiple glasses of champagne at midnight. We opened a couple of bottles and we had to finish it, so we all did champagne, and then one of the neighbors brought out some kind of whiskey, and we all did a shot. And one of the other neighbors is like, "This is crap. Let me get you something good." And he brought like $150 bottle of some good shit. And he had brought out cigars earlier, so we're smoking cigars. And he brings out really good whiskey, and we all take a shot of the good whiskey. And then something in my brain, I'm drunk off my ass, but something in my brain says, "That's 2 shots in 5 minutes." Neither have kicked in yet. When they do, on top of how much you drank, you're going to be jello. And it's just our next door neighbors. And I turned to my wife. I said, "We're going home." She's like, "No, I'm having a good time." So we're going home now. We almost got into a fight because I was so insistent. Like crush out my cigar and was like, "We'll see you guys. We're going in." We go in. We literally walk in get our deck, walk in the back door, and both of us, our legs start to give out. as we enter the house. Our legs start becoming rubber. And we're like, oh my God, oh my God. And she's like, thank God we came home. And we literally like crawled into the living room and just curled up on the couch because it all hit us so hard.
Yeah.
And
I
that
think
was
maybe if we
on
do
a
an
New Year's Eve a
intoxication,
long time ago.
if we do an intoxication episode, it'll be patron only. And
Okay, so forget you guys heard that.
Well, this will be just for this. Well, I'll just cut this whole talk out about and keep it for patrons. But that would be kind of cool. And maybe if we got enough patrons, we just do like one every couple months or whatever. We do an intoxication episode.
Or we do the episode and drink at the beginning of the episode. To get enough of an episode together that's for normies. And if you, as it starts, you know, when you edit it, you can decide what point did it get good enough that's where you cut it off and say, okay, guys, this is Sober Mike. We're cutting it there. If you want to hear the rest, you need to go to patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. So they hear let it start to get good, then you cut it off. Just like drugs. You get the first bit of it free, but if you want all the good stuff, you got to come back and pay.
Yeah.
Marketing. Got to use your marketing brain. Come on, you're a marketer.
Yeah. So anyway, everybody, I'm not going to try to do the shitty plug of our, liking and subscribing because
just play the last one.
Because Matthew did such a good job. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit like, subscribe, ring the bell. That helps us so that you're seeing our videos more often. It also just helps us to get a little more traction. If you're listening to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever they're calling it, you can give us a review. Make sure that you're following and the show. But also, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you have the option now for the Apple specific subscription service, $3 a month or $30 a year, and that gets you all the uncensored stuff. What is it?
It's called Apple Treon.
Yeah,
but it's not a copy of Patreon, not at all.
No, it's Apple subscriptions, and so you will get all the same stuff that patrons get on Patreon from the comfort of Apple. So like if you already have all your credit cards and shit tied to Apple, you don't have to create a new account. That's, I think, part of the appeal is that it's way more one click than
it's an Apple appeal.
Oh, appeal on Apple, yeah. You can get more of these puns.
We edit the dad jokes out of the Patreon.
We don't edit the dad jokes out. We edit the dirty jokes out. So, and then if you're listening on any of the other podcast platforms, they have some version of liking and subscribing or following or whatever they call it. If you can
set it to auto download if you have that setting on your thing so that the system knows that you downloaded it. I don't care if you listen or not.
Yeah.
But download it.
I was just about to push that part too. Yeah. It helps us. Every little bit counts.
Makes us feel loved.
It helps us to be able to grow the show, and the more followers we have, the more likely we are to get cool guests, interested in coming on, and that will help us to keep you entertained. So it is all in service of you. And obviously, as we talked about Disney a bunch, we like to go to Disney. So if you pay us, then that works. No.
I had said I'm never going to Disney again unless it's with grandchildren. But I guess if patrons pay, I'll go.
Yeah. We could do
I'm done waiting on lines.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, Matthew has one final thing.
Thanks for coming by to talk about other people's big stuff.
Yeah. We'll talk to you next week.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.